Okay, so this is the second part of our look at the 3 minute ICC games in the review my play for this episode. This is the first of the two 3 minute games that I played. Again, in both these games, I'm black. Against a modern defense, something I play reasonably often. Knight f3 is a fairly common reply in this line, either knight f3 or d5. You get very different types of games, but there's a lot of ideas that kind of carry over. Now we've got a position that could have come about from an English or potentially could end up as a Maroczy Bind type position. And here, white chooses to take on c6. g3 seems like a fairly logical idea, looking to get control of the d5 square. Knight f6 again, if I get the chance, I'll happily play d5. Obviously, bishop g2 stops that. We both castle. And then rook b8 seems like a logical move, putting the rook on a good file. Queen c2, and then the move that the computer really didn't like, well, the first move that the computer didn't like, bishop a6. I didn't mind it myself at the time. Computer idea here was an interesting one, rook b4. The idea being that obviously you're attacking the c-pawn. The most logical way to defend the c-pawn is to play b3, but then that opens up the diagonal, so black can actually get away with playing d5 because of the tactics down the diagonal. So you might play a move like rook d1, bishop f5, hitting the queen, and then just rook b8. And you've actually got the d5 break-in successfully. Another alternative was to play queen b6 here. Suggested line might be something like rook b1, d6, and maybe set up with the pawns on c6 and d6, maybe going c5 and give up on the idea of playing d5 altogether, but basically just trying to get the pieces out and use some piece play, and then maybe sort of push for some play on the queen side with sort of the heavy pieces and the bishops. Anyway, back to the game itself. Bishop a6 was played. b3, again defending the c-pawn. And now I played e6, which was seemed like a good idea at the time, but it's actually not a very good move at all. Much better would have been a move like queen c7, preventing what happens in the game. But again, just trying to control, in particular, the key d6 square first before I do anything sort of silly. In this case, e6, I don't have control of the d6 square, and bishop f4 exploits that really well. The same thing would happen with bishop a3 as well. Same kind of idea, just with a different move order. So rook c8. Maybe I could have put the rook somewhere else, maybe on the b file, but it's fine. Bishop d6, rook here, and then rook to d1. So white's clearly better in this position, and I really have to do something to try and untangle. Bishop f8 seems like a reasonable try. e4, and then blunder here was c5, which tactically doesn't work, and really positionally as well. A better move might have been queen a5. Again, trying to do something about holding up the e5 advance. So back to the game, we played c5. Problem being that this allows e5. Now, the knight really doesn't have anywhere to go. I can't just take on d6 because there's rook takes d6. Obviously, the knight's still on, and the bishop on a6 is be threatened as well. So, knight out to h5. Could have gone to g4 maybe, but I thought h5 might have been safe with the option to retreat to g7. Bishop takes f8. King takes, and then the rook comes into d6, and this is where my problem starts, because the bishop doesn't have anywhere to go. So I have to defend the bishop, and the only way to really safely defend the bishop is to play queen a5, but that obviously gives up the d7 pawn. The computer actually prefers queen d2, holding off all these threats. So now you're still threatening to take on d7. You also got this queen h6 check idea, as well as g4 could be another idea. So this idea of holding off on sort of cashing in for the time being, but rook takes d7 itself isn't too bad. I play rook c7, white doubled, and then this is again where I really made my situation worse. Better move here would have been to just swap and then play rook e7. There obviously is the problem with knight e4 and knight d6 and sort of the hole on d6, but it's really not that bad because there's only, obviously, okay, there is a big problem with the d6 square, but it's only one sort of big problem in the position. In the game I played bishop back to c8, which allowed rook to d8. And again here, it compounded the problem. I played bishop b7. Better alternative might have been either to double up the rooks on the e file, just to sort of hold everything together, or alternatively played up knight back to g7 to protect the rook. The problem with bishop b7, as you'll see, swaps, queen d2, so now threatening mate on d8. Queen and a5 can defend that, so then I have to do something about keeping d7 under control. So rook e7 does that. Then that weakness of d6 becomes a problem. So now we're threatening, as you can see, to come into d8 with check. Obviously, king doesn't really have anywhere to go, so I'm in a spot of bother there. So the queen comes back to c7, now knight b5, and yeah, I really have to basically give up material and hope that I can somehow hang on to the ending. Computer was really queen takes, knight takes, king f8, and just drop a piece on b7. Obviously, clearly losing, but it doesn't really seem much hope in either line. Because after what I played in the game, queen c8, what I actually played knight takes a7. However, something that again you'll see repeated, but bishop takes b7 right away. After rook takes, queen a6, and the knight's coming to d6, winning the house, and I really can't do anything about it. But knight takes a7, hits the queen. I really don't have any useful moves here at all. So just going back to c7, the knight goes back to b5, repeat back to c8, and then again he still had the option of taking on b7, but he simply played queen b6. So now we're threatening knight d6, threatening to take on b7 as well. I ended up playing rook d7, knight d6. I ended up playing rook takes. He actually played rook takes, and I ran out of time, but pawn takes was even more crushing. Now I need to worry about d7, which obviously forks the king and queen, as well as actually threatening the bishop on b7, so there's really no good defense, anything here, so I'm busted.